virtual reality is making a groundbreaking changes to design concepts and their output. One of these areas is spatial design. Question is, what is spatial design? And with the growing activities in the metaverse, how will disciplines like architecture, engineering, gaming design, art, and others be affected? Joining us to discuss further from Rotterdam in the Netherlands is Johan Hanegraaf. He is the co-founder and head of product at spatial design firm Arkio. Johan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. So for the benefit of our viewers, what is spatial design?
Thank you for inviting me. So spatial design is all of the designs like made in a spatial 3D world. So you can think about architecture, game design, pretty much any environment that we make in 3D, theater design, theme park design. It's all like we're living in a 3D world. That's spatial design.
Arkio seems to be focused on collaborative spatial design. Is more to be achieved when designers are working together as opposed to in silos?
Correct, yes. So in the architecture world and in many other design worlds, it's already pretty common to work together. You're not working on yourself on an airport. It's often a team of various people working on various parts of the design. And collaboration is actually an essential part in a lot of the 3D world creations that we're doing today. And making that process collaborative will prevent a lot of miscommunication and confusion during the design process.
And I think we have this image of you, virtual reality, use of buildings, I think in architecture. What kind of tech are you using at Arkio? And are you leveraging on existing design tech or using something new?
So we are using something new. So we built our own modeling kernel to allow us to make geometry using your hands. And we use some of the existing technologies like Game Engine, Unity. We tie into some of the architectural tools like Revit, Rhino, and SketchUp. And we make integrations with these existing tools. So architects can bring their creations to Arkio, and they can bring Arkio's new designs back into those original design tools.
All right. So Johan, you're an architect, you're an engineer. What are the benefits to the different disciplines that rely on design from, I guess, gaming, architecture, engineering, and so on?
So all of the fields have their own speciality. In a way, architects are focusing on more like how the materials and buildings and structurally how everything stands together. When you're working on game design, metaverses, you're often more about the spatial journey that you're going through in these 3D spaces. But they all benefit from seeing scale as from the human perspective. And something that's traditionally pretty hard in any 2D application that we have now on our 2D screens is seeing that scale and seeing that space. And with VR and AR, this is now possible. So we can mimic the reality, mimic the real spaces, and see much better what that will do to us as a human being.
All right. Arkio is on the Meta Quest. What is the Meta Quest? And can you talk to us about the blending of physical and virtual environments and how that helps design?
Good question. So the Meta Quest is a headset designed by Facebook, now called Meta. It's a $300 VR headset that has cameras in there. And these cameras allow you to see the real world and mix the virtual and the real world together. So what we just saw in the video is me modeling on top of the real world in Arkio your environment. And this enables a lot of new ways of working together because you can work with like what you already have, your living room, and put new a new cabinet in there, add a new wall, and even make a window into a virtual world to look beyond your real wall.
All right, I'm glad that you actually put up the headset, the virtual reality headset from Facebook, because I want to ask you about the future of headsets. Let me share some images here. This is Google is offering augmented reality, in fact, on smartphones. So you can, for instance, wild animals. For instance, you can search for a wild animal, and they'll give you a 3D image, and then you can put that 3D image in your reality without a headset. I think let's put up those images. So these are images of a tiger in an actual apartment, which has been, superimposed on the reality there. So I hope we can get those images up. But if the question to you is, do we need virtual reality headsets for augmented reality if you can get these kind of images without headsets at all?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of the AR technologies, they are still a bit they're very demanding technologies. They need like glasses that have like really small form factor. There's a couple of things that still need to be solved, but it's already accessible using your phone or tablet. So a lot of the augmented reality experiences can already be achieved using a phone and tablet. You can put like virtual objects on the real world. But there's a difference between using a smartphone to look at something in AR and having a glasses comfortably on your head and using your hands to interact with objects in 3D. So you can imagine our screens, our cell phones are getting bigger and bigger each year, like the screens are getting bigger. And with VR and AR, your screen can be unlimited size. You basically, anything in the world can become a screen. So the experiences of bringing something into augmented reality will also be much more intense than a smartphone.
So that means virtual reality headsets then have a future, because even at Arkio, you're enabling tablets and mobile phones to view your spatial design. So even with the fact that you're using other devices to be able to work together with these spatial designs, you're still saying that virtual reality headsets, they're here to stay. Is that your position?
Correct. And what I think will happen more and more is that the virtual reality headsets that are out now, they will decrease in size. They will become even more affordable. They will come better in like what they capably can do as technology and how much they can render. But these devices will slowly also merge into augmented reality headsets. And what we're seeing already now with the Meta Quest is the pass-through feed. It already allows me to mix the real world and the virtual world. And in the spatial design, or in the 3D world, they would talk about this as XR. Like you're not longer talking about AR or VR. You're talking about extended reality. So it becomes a mix between these two realities.
So how much further can this go? What's your view on the metaverse and its potential for things, I guess even beyond design?
So it can go in many ways. What I think is most interesting is it's allowing us to go into complete new worlds and immerse ourselves in games, in social experiences, in collaborative design, and all sorts of new workflows that it enables. And I think more and more we'll start moving away from 2D web pages to meet and to talk to our friends, but also like go into like putting on our glasses and go to meet friends and like people that we work with in the metaverse. So we're not there yet. The experiences are still being created, but it is very interesting technology because it would prevent a lot of unnecessary traveling. And like when you have to work remotely, for example, it will really allow you to go into a social engaged environment.
And as far as spatial design, what type of future do you envision for that specifically, for that niche within the design world?
I think that's a very interesting field as well, because the spatial design so far has been mostly done with 2D screens. So we never had technology to work on your like 3D models with actual skill and using your hands. So this allows that interaction and that technology. And so this will also enhance the design process itself for the users.
And what's the future for Arkio? Can you let us in on anything you're working on for the 2023 and beyond? What kind of future plans do you have at the company?
We have quite interesting things with the pass-through capabilities, because what we're seeing now is like a black and white image of the pass-through, but we're going to be new devices on the market that allow color pass-through. There's going to be some interesting technologies where we can connect to existing tools from architecture. And yeah, we're just extending Arkio itself to become a more capable 3D modeler, so more things can be made with it.
And are your client base, is it mostly private sector, or are you going to be assisting with designs for, parks, for cities, and so on and so forth? Or does your client base expand public and private?
So currently we're used by architects around the world, but the interesting thing is that we're also being used by hobbyists. So people that are doing their own home renovations, people that are working on metaverse spaces, like they got into the NFT or or whatever, like they were very interested in making spaces. So the people that are using the app are very diverse. But we're focusing most of the applications build functionality for architecture.
Great stuff. I wanted to ask you something about value within the metaverse, because you're building buildings. There's been talk of being able to buy land in the metaverse and pay for a building. What's your take on value within the metaverse, exchange of money and so on and so forth? What do you make of that?
Yeah. So that's a pretty hard topic, but so from my understanding, everything has its value, and especially if there's scarcity involved, it becomes more valuable. One of the hard things of virtual objects and land and art is it is hard to make things not copyable. Like, it is pretty easy to just make a duplicated world and then sell land there as well. So we have to be a bit careful and not fall into scams and buy everything that we can digitally, because it's very easy to copy digital things compared to physical things. But there's definitely value in having a prime piece of real estate in a virtual world that's very busy, of course. So I think these things will be more and more common. People will buy virtual objects, virtual lands, and this will just be a new economy by itself.
Very, very interesting stuff. Johan Hanegraaf, co-founder, head of product at Arkio. We do appreciate your time talking to us about spatial design.